Well, I'm going to keep going today. It would appear that, in spite of my, oops, I guess I didn't need to do that. In spite of my persistent laziness, I have accomplished, yeah, 1305. I really want to do more than 15 seconds a day. So we're going to do one more shot. And guess what we're going to do? Oh, this is nothing but cool. We're going to do this shot in Tahoma instead of Krita. Why? For absolutely no reason other than it's going to be fun. So this is going to be shot number 158. So let's just go 158. And actually, to be clear, this really needs to be 8 frames a second. Okay? Let's create it. Okay, so now we've created our scene. And why don't we take 2 extra steps? Step number 1, I'm going to actually jump over to Krita, and I'm leaving this one open because I have a feeling my next shot is going to require, I'm probably going to actually run this in reverse and then have him do his line of dialogue, because he says, but now that you mention it. So yeah, we can run this one in reverse, and so get 2 shots for the price of 1. And here what we're going to do is we're going to insert this as a new document and just let the world know, well, actually let myself know, that this shot is going to be 158.t, okay, not n, t, t and z. Alright? Alright. Okay, so, hello. Save that. And that way when I go back to my storyboard, which if you're a new watcher, here's my storyboard. So you can kind of see all the shots. I actually deleted a couple images from the storyboard a moment ago, but so this is the last shot that I did, and then this one is happening. And what I'm going to do is, just to make it fair, I'm going to go ahead and drop the storyboard shot. And gosh, do I want to import this or load it? There's really no reason to import it, but at the same time, OpenTunes, and I assume Tahoma, can be a little winky with what it does with loaded images. So I think just to be safe, let's ask ourselves, how long is this going to take? Basically, King smiles, Golik frowns. So probably 4 seconds. So 8 times 4 is 32. So we'll just, since we, it's utterly ridiculous, but it's fun to keep it on the borders here. Now, actually, I probably should change this. In my case, really, those lines should be on 8s, not 6s, but whatever. I think the thinking is that at 24 frames a second, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. At 12 frames a second, you got 2. 8 doesn't really sort of fit in the mix anywhere quite correctly, so we'll just kind of make that real soft. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called thinking. Let's think about what we're doing here. We know we're going to pilfer the background from the last shot we did of these 2 guys, and if we wanted to, honestly, we could actually sneak that in already, and here's how. This is 155. The shot prior was 153, actually 152. I did not do the close-up, so I'm in the other screen actually deleting another image out of my storyboard. So what we want is negative 152, which is this. And now what we're going to do is grab the background, the entire background. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll solo the background. We'll hit Control A, Control C, and now jump back over to Tahoma and hit Control V. And now we've inserted our background in here. And gosh, I'm thinking let's just hit the Animate tool and scale it up. Kind of sort of like that based on the shot we're doing. And then we'll just save this and turn it off. We don't need to see it right now. But we've got it in there, so one less thing, right? Okay, so what do we want to do here? Well, geez, let's just dive into ink. What the heck? Hit the B key. How do we want to do this? Well, since I'm kind of drawing from scratch here, I want to be a little bit careful. This isn't really a traditional inking job. In other words, this is more of a combination drawing and inking together, so therefore I am not going to be doing a bunch of sketchy stuff. So oops. I'm being, oh come on, Tahoma, really? There's really only this one bug in Tahoma that bugs me, and that is that the way in OpenTunes, if you hit the spacebar, you're immediately in zoom mode, whereas with Tahoma, you hit the spacebar and it actually puts you in panning mode, but then if you wiggle it a little bit, then it goes into zoom mode, and it appears to be on some kind of timer. So it's going to stay in pan mode, and the idea, yeah, see, and if you just let it up, it doesn't, without clicking, it doesn't go into zoom mode. So you have to actually go pan, and then it switches, and then you let go, but now it's going to still pan. So then you click again. So it's a little goofy. There's just no other way to put it. It's a little goofy. But it's not a deal breaker. Let's hit the erase. It's not a deal breaker, folks. We can work with this. Silly though it may be. What would life be if you didn't have software that acted a little bit silly? It'd be wonderful. That's what it'd be. However, this is what we have to work with, so let's work with it. Right? Absolutely. So let's just kind of jam in there, and he's got his hair hanging down, and actually the the storyboard's a little bit inaccurate in that Vespigi's beard is actually kind of a long-ish beard. So I'm going to do that. And I want to delineate his eyebrows, actually. And now I'm going to hit the H key to flip it, just to be safe. And in this close-up, I'm going to be more clear about Vespigi's nose, which you probably, unless you've really been watching my videos, you wouldn't know that Vespigi is kind of an illegitimate king, in that he usurped the throne from his brother. And the point I'm getting at is that his brother had more of a rounded sort of look to him. So I'm making Vespigi a little more pointy, you might say. And that's kind of it's a cartoon thing. I mean, typically you want more angular sorts of shapes for the more naughty characters. I don't want to call him evil, because he's not really evil. He's more misguided, I would say, because this guy, Golek, sort of misled him at a fairly young age. So now he's got this sort of multicolored, I guess I'd call it a thing, that he's wearing. And boom, 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 boom. Nice broad shoulders. He's sitting on the throne. And we'll have to draw the throne in there, no doubt about it. But I think I'll draw that on another layer. And as long as we're on the topic, let's just put Golek on another layer too. Let's make everyone be on their own layers. Now in Tahoma parlance, or OpenTunes, it's not a layer. It's a level. It's called a level. Darn it. Yeah, Jeremy Bullock, if you're out there watching this, dude, look at how much I'm struggling with every time I try to zoom. It's like a royal pain in the rump, really is. So if you think about doing a new build of Tahoma, and to be fair, it is actually possible that there's already a build of Tahoma out there that has fixed that problem. I have no idea if Jeremy's been on that one or not. But I actually grokked out today how to build Krita myself on Linux. Looks like it's quite a bit easier than on Windows, but I could be wrong. Okay, that's it. Okay, so now here's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and color this guy. And by the way, one of the nice things about Tahoma or OpenTunes is you can change the colors after the fact. So now what I'm going to do is go boom, 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 boom. Okay, and I'm just going to guess. I'm going to say, well, I guess Vespigi's hair is kind of a fading brown-ish, and I'm going to check back here in the, well, actually, let's do it this way. Let's just put it full screen. Yeah, see, he's kind of brown hair, golden, purple, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So that's what we're after. Okay, this is going to be his flesh tone, so we'll just put it there. This is going to be the purple of his outfit. This is going to be the purple, and I'm hitting the R key. Well, I guess you can't do it over there, so I'm going to grab this one and just make a duplicate of it. A little bit darker. This is going to be our gold color. Gold-ish. A little more yellow. And then in the, he's got basically a sort of a pink-ish and a yellow-ish stripe. And I think that might do it for his colors. So let's just see what we can get away with here. Boom, 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 boom. Gold, that's probably his crown. Hair, hair. Flesh tone. Okay, we're going to have to manually deal with his eyes, by the way. Okay. We'll zip in there. Back to the flesh tone here. Boom. So yeah, it's pretty, I'm hitting the G key, which is not the default hotkey for what I'm doing, but I'm using the G key to sample these colors, and we'll tighten up these little, you can see these little, spots that got missed, and that's going to be easy enough to fix. So yellow stripe, boom. Purple stripe, boom. Purple, boom. Boom. Darker color, and again, boom. Okay, so now what we're going to do is fill. We're filling areas. We're still filling areas, but we're going to do it in freehand mode. Okay? And now we can just circle around these things. It's not quite as flexible as painting in Krita in behind mode, but it's not too bad. Okay. Zooming in. Fill tool. F for fill tool, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to go through here and try to catch these little glitches. Okay, now in his case, I'm going to say his outlines feel a bit light to me. I think we want just a little more contrast. Okay, so now the main thing we don't get with Tahoma OpenTunes is the ability to easily alpha lock shadows. Now that's not completely true. Actually, it is easy to do, but you have to do it as kind of a post-compositing effect. And in this case, I'll go ahead and show that. You do it with the schematic view, and it's quite slick how it works actually. But anyway, so let's just do again a fill. And since we're doing it in freehand mode, we can just, hold on, let me check something. We're doing areas. Why is it not coloring over? Okay. We're going to take the V tool, which is the, or the V key, which is the Smart Raster Paint tool. Okay. So it's a little different from the quote-unquote brush, but it lets you go in and just paint areas. Now I'm hitting the G key again to sample this, and then it's really tempting to hit the B key. I need to not hit the B key, but instead hit the V key. Okay, so now what did I say about shadows? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually just go on another layer. Let's zoom out. And then what we'll do is we will hit the B key, and we're just going to put in these areas, and then I'm going to hit the fill tool, and we'll go back to normal mode so I can just go like this. And then we're just going to crank down the alpha on the shadows. Now, that takes care of how you can make these interior shadows, but it doesn't really address the problem of having to stay inside the lines. If you are going to want to be sloppy with your shadows, which I recommend highly, be quite sloppy, then you do need to have a way to lock to the alpha of the character. So just because I'm a wonderfully nice guy, I'm going to show right now how one does that. There's actually more than one way to do it, but here's one way. So let's say I take my B key, and we're just going to assume the light's sort of coming down this way. So we'll go like this and go like that, okay? And fill that area. So now that you can see, the problem is that our shadows are outside of our character. Okay, what do we do about that? Well, if you hit F3, it opens what's called the schematic. Now there's two schematics actually. This is called the stage schematic, which kind of shows you the structure of your scene, and it reflects the X sheet. If you hit this little button here, now you're looking at the effects schematic. So if you're familiar with Blender or Natron or any other node-based compositing program, well, gee, it turns out that there's actually a very capable node-based compositor built right into Tahoma. And what we're going to do here is we're going to create a relationship between these two in order to lock our shadows to the alpha. Now what I'm going to do here in my scene is I'm going to turn it on preview so that we can see the effect of the composite. So I know two ways to do this, actually. One way would be to do, I believe it's multiply in. I haven't actually done this in a while. So it's a layer blending INO multiply. Okay, and what we're doing is we're multiplying these two together, and you'll notice that the shadow's now fixed. Now the reason that worked was because if I double click on it, by default the multiply INO effect turns on clipping mask. If I turn clipping mask off, we don't get that clipping effect. So that's one way to do it. Frankly, when people do tutorials on how to do it, this sort of, alpha lock clipping kind of thing, they usually don't do it this way. So I'm going to go Control C, Control V. Okay, that's not what I meant to do. I guess I'll just bypass it. I don't need to actually delete it. Okay, so I'm going to plug these guys back into my X sheet and just kill that connection right there. So now the effect of this plugin is still there, and I can use it anytime I want, but I'm just going to go ahead and show another way to do this. Okay, and the other way to do it would be with matte, and I think it's matte in. Okay, so the matte would be our character, which is this one, because in other words, the perimeter around him is creating a mask to lock the shadows out. So then what we do is we run the shadow in as the source, and we plug that in here. Okay, but is it matte? I thought it was matte in. Well, maybe it's matte out. Yeah, it's probably matte out, because in a sense, what you're actually trying to do is mask OUT out the So we'll just do replace effects, matte, and we'll do matte out instead of matte in. Okay. Our matte is this. Oh, I'm sorry. I might have just made a mistake. Let me do something here. Let me hit undo. So now we're back to matte in. I need to kill these two connections. Okay. Yes. So what you see here, now that we don't have this erroneous connection, is when we go into the matte in effect, I actually had it right. But there's a catch with matte in. And the catch is, what we've done is we've used the character to lock the shadow. As you can see, it is matted in properly. The problem is we lost our character. Well, what you do is you run the character still into the X sheet by itself. And the matted shadow, so all you're really doing is matting the shadow, but using the character as your source, or not your source, but as your mask to obviously lock it to the alpha of the character. Now, my personal opinion, gone. I personally like the multiply INO because it's faster and it works perfectly. And plus, if you wanted to, you could dial the opacity of the shadows up or down, and the masking effect still happens. So to me, you got a little more controllability. If you wanted to control it with the other filter or effect, you would actually have to change the color or the alpha level of the shadows themselves. Now in my case, my shadows are already transparent at the color level, right? These could have been fully opaque, and then you get this, and then you could always dial it in here. So either way works. Doesn't matter. My opinion, this is faster. This was on about 43 as I recall. This is faster, and plus if you don't need to mask the shadows around the character and you're just staying inside the lines, well then you can accomplish everything by just turning down the opacity of the color. Makes sense? Oh yeah, I know it does. Okay, so now we need to turn that back off and just go ahead and kind of fill in this area and get some shadows happening here. Okay, I made a boo-boo there. I'm just going to redo that. So, in one way, okay, so you see that I'm kind of having a hard time seeing what I'm doing. What you can do is just change the color to something really obnoxious and make it opaque. Okay. Now I can see my lines. I can see what I'm doing, right? There we go. So admittedly, for the moment, it's hard to, it's a little distracting for sure. But, you know what? It works. Okay, let's go ahead and do something like that. Make it black again. Make it transparent again. And remember, you can always look at your composite preview to see what you've got. Looks pretty good. Okay, save our work. As usual, we save early, save often. Now, there's another hiccup on the king. What I want to do is I want to do something I probably should not really try to do in Tahoma. I should probably, this would be way easier to do in Blender, but I'm going to try it anyway. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a plastic tool operation because I want to affect his expression. So I'm going to use a fairly dense mesh. And if you're not familiar with the plastic tool, you're wondering right now, what the heck are you doing? Well, you're going to see here in half a second. Okay, I'm actually going to, I want to check something. Okay, yeah, with an older version of OpenTunes, if you used your stylus tablet, which I am using right now, it would actually stick in 2 nodes instead of 1, and it could cause a real problem. So now, this looks a little obnoxious, but what I'm doing is I'm essentially putting bones in here to effectively control and protect all this area of the character. Because the only thing I really want to affect with the plastic tool, which is is his expression, which is going to be boom, 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 and boom, boom. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a smile, and I know this is really, really risky what I'm about to try. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can go ahead and give him a little bit of a smile in his eyes too. Okay. Now probably I should protect this top area. Okay. So it's a little obnoxious going through and having to protect this and protect that, but it does work pretty well, and I'm actually going to put an extra bone right there just to see if I can get away with it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is switch the skeleton. By the way I invoked the plastic tool was with the X key. So now I'm going to animate it. Alright? So the first thing I'm going to do is, I guess I'll go down here. I was thinking around 2 seconds for this smile to happen. Now what I want to do is make his eyes twinkle a little bit and again give him a smile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off this little wing dinger here that says keep distance. If this is on, I'll show with one of these bones down here. If this is on, then I can drag this bone around and it's going to it's going to remain the same length. You can see no matter what it's the same length. If I turn this off, then I can stretch it around. Okay, now we actually have a problem as far as I can tell, which is actually kind of strange what's happening right now. What's happening is that the plastic tool is not affecting the character, which, to tell you the gospel truth, friends, I've never seen that happen before. So this is a little weird. So I don't know quite what to think about that. Rather than struggle and fight and hope against hope that I can figure it out, I'm going to assume it's just a hiccup in Tahoma. The one thing I will look at is I'm going to hit F3 to open my schematic, and I'm going to look at my stage schematic, because what I should have is my plastic tool level and column 3 being fed through it. Now ultimately I'm also going to pipe my shadows through it like that. Well, I guess I could just do that now, except that does, let me see here. No, that works. That works fine. Okay. I probably should mention this. The masking effect on the shadows is less necessary. It's still kind of necessary, but it's less necessary if you use the plastic tool, because the plastic tool actually creates a clipping region around your character. But in this case, because the clipping or the extents of the mesh go outside my character a little more than is desirable, it doesn't really work as a clipping mechanism for the shadows. But it can, because when you create the mesh, the very first thing I did after I hit the X key, you can actually make it cleave closer to the character to the point where it would be probably suitable as a masking tool. But I'm going to just hit save all and reopen Tahoma, because like I said, I've quite literally never seen that happen where the plastic tool just didn't do anything. And I've been using OpenTunes for like 2 years, so that's a really strange one, actually. Very, very strange. So I'm going to go back here, hit the X key, and still nothing's happening. What the heck am I missing here? Oh, we're back in build skeleton mode. How did that happen? I thought for sure I was in animate mode before. Yep, and it's not deforming the skeleton. That is really strange. I have, in all the years I've been using OpenTunes, and obviously now Tahoma, I have never seen that happen. I'm going to put a key here as if that would make a difference. But yeah, this is very, very weird. This is very, very weird. This is, guys, by guys I mean either Jeremy Bullock or Darren T. If either of you guys are watching this and see what's going on here, this is really weird. I may be looking at and missing something obvious, but in all my born days, I have never seen that happen. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to regenerate the mesh, and let's just make it a more dense mesh. This was what I was talking about, the mesh margin. If I take this margin and make it only like 1 pixel, as you can see, effectively, the plastic tool can in fact become an effective masking tool for my shadow. So, tis what it is. Let me see here. I'm going to turn that off just so I can better see what I'm doing. Ah, it looks like something moved just now, so that's good. That's a good sign. That is a good sign. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just delete this key and start over. But that appears to have done the trick. So I don't know what the heck was going on right there. Hopefully that will not happen to you. So this is exactly what I wanted Vespigi to do. Just a little smile, right? I like that. That's good. Okay, and so now we'll try to do the same thing and make his eyes twinkle. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm just going to try. Oh boy, that's definitely not going to work. Okay, let me undo that and maybe... Oh boy, oh boy. Well, now you can see the dangers of the plastic tool. This sort of thing would never happen in Blender. Now, you just see something here. I do feel like I kind of made his skull a bit tall. So I'm actually going to... Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to actually see if I can compensate for that. Thusly, 1. Okay, I got to think about this. What I really need to do is put a point there. Why don't we put one there and there, and then put some little protectors. Again, this might not work. I'm sort of taking a chance here. This could really blow up in my face. But my concept is, if there's only a key on this particular node or bone, if you want to call it a bone, I think I might be able to actually just cheat a little bit of a modification of my character. So this is not normal practice, but what the heck, if you can do it, you can do it, right? So I'm just going to bring that in a little bit, and then I'm trusting that because I just set keys on these bones here. Didn't quite work. That's too bad. Yeah, so unfortunately that means I would have to actually delete the key on this bone here. That's going to be a tricky one. Let me see if I can do it. So this is vertex 9, and what I'm going to do is double click here, and now you guys get to see what it really looks like to try to modify plastic tool data. So there's the skeleton, and it was, to quote the Beatles, number 9, number 9. And what we want to do here, I'm hoping against hope that in the function editor that it's going to select the right bone. It did! Oh, that's good. Okay, let me transition up here. So when I selected that bone, it selected it here. So that's great, because that means I can look at this angle and distance data, and my thinking here is that if I kill this, if I just kill everything about this second keyframe, that one doesn't seem to want to do anything. Okay. Okay, it changed its angle. Okay, so I do need to change the angle value. So why I guess I need to grab it here. Yes. There, it's fixed. That's cool. So now kudos to Jeremy Bullock on that one, because the editing in the function editor in Tahoma is way improved compared to OpenTunes, IMHO. Okay, so now question, do we want to have him do a little bit of a, kind of a little bit of a shift of the weight sort of thing? let's see. Let's put keep distance back on, and let's just... Okay, we can't do that. So it'd have to be this one. Let's see. I actually think maybe we'll do the opposite. Yep. Yep, there you go. So now we'll turn off the plastic tool layer so we can't see it. And let's just look at what our character does. Boom. That's exactly what we wanted. That's great. Okay. I think it probably should happen a little quicker. So let's give ourselves essentially 1 second to get into the scene. So that'd be 8 frames. And then 1 second to do the animation. So we enter the scene, and Vespigi gives a little chuckly smile. Save all. Okay, cool. That worked. That's pretty good. So we're going to definitely need a layer here for his throne. And I may just paint that in Krita, actually, and then drag it in here. We'll see. But with that, we can turn the background image back on, and now we can deal with Golek. Fortunately, I've drawn Golek enough times that I think I can wing it, given that I'm also looking at the last shot I did of him. I think I can probably bluff my way through this one. Okay, and I'm going to start out with... Okay, I need to check in the edit, though. What was the position of Golek's? Yeah, Golek was actually not quite looking like I have him here. What he was really doing is something more like this. Okay. Let's see. And I'm going to go ahead and take this back out. I'm thinking as I draw right now about how I want to handle him for this particular shot. Boom. Yeah, not quite buying this. It's always a little risky to just dive in and draw, as opposed to having a good sketch to guide you. But you can do it. I mean, it's not like it's a rule. But so I'm going to give him a look something like this, such that and actually let's lower his mouth a bit. I'm thinking let's just kind of bring this down a little. Okay, now Golek is absolutely aging, and like Asher the prophet, the truth of the matter is that Asher's been a thorn in Golek's side for years, and so Golek finds Asher quite annoying. Okay. Now I want to just, I think let's hit the old H key so I can get the curvature here correct. That's pretty good. That came out not too shabby. Okay, so in this particular situation, Golek was wearing kind of a capey kind of thing, actually. And he had his hands behind his back. Now, oops, it's the stupid The zoom tool's acting funky. Okay, so now what I want to do is put Golic in front of the background but behind the king. Actually, that's probably a stupid idea considering that I need to make sure the shapes are closed for coloring purposes. So that means if Golic is covered up, I might wind up with a hole and a leak without meaning to. But yes, so this is sort of a closed cape shape, and up in the other screen I'm closing my function editor so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Golic always wears this kind of a, oh, I don't know, I guess I'd call him sort of priestly robes, although actually, to be accurate, in this shot I had put in the one but not the other for the simple reason that being that he is older than the last time we saw him, the dude has a bit of a pot belly. And I was kind of having fun with the idea that his pot belly sort of hangs over his belt a little bit. That would be something like that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just drag him back on top so that I can close these shapes, because this is actually what I need to do for this shot. So that just closes the shapes so that we can fill in the color without too much trouble. And he's also got kind of a, I don't know if he's got a zipper, I'm not quite sure what he's got. I know one thing he's got is a bad attitude. So, alright, let's just start going down through the colors. Number one, let's give him hair that is somewhat graying compared to what it used to be. So boom, there's that. And frankly, the man has pasty skin, also on the grayish side. Boom, uh-oh, we got a leak. So all we got to do is zoom right in here, take our color, and just close that. Okay, now let's see, this is kind of a dirty olive color. This is more of a rich, festive sort of green. Excuse me. Okay, and this is sort of a rusty, actually a fairly dirty burgundy color. Okay, not too shabby. So now we need to put in this here, and then it looks like I had an even darker color that was tilted slightly that way for his belt in the other shot. Okay, so he's standing back behind the king. He looks like he's a midget now, or I guess, so I can be politically correct, he looks like a little person. So that fixed that. And as far as his hair goes, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and make his hair a little darker. I think I went too far. Okay, things are looking okay. The question becomes, do we want to do the plastic tool on him? All I really want to do, I don't even want to animate his mouth, I don't think. Okay, so let's do a couple quick corrections first before we get too much further. We need to do the freehand fill to get rid of this nastiness that we have here. Come on. Excuse me. And we also need to have a color for his eyes. So I'm going to make this a really obnoxious color so that we can see to it that they actually got filled, and then we'll fix the color like so. Alright, G key to sample that color. fill tool once again to get all these areas that are the V key here to just color that in by hand. G key, fill tool, and just scanning down. There's a problem right there. G key to sample. Again, on your installation of Tahoma, I can almost guarantee you that G is not the... Okay, so what is the G key doing for me? It looks like an eyedropper, but what it does is it samples the color underneath the eyedropper and jumps to that entry in the palette. Okay, which of course can be changed after the fact like this. Okay, if I would hit the R key, now I'm going to sample a color. So if this color was selected, but I clicked right here, then this color in the palette would actually change to the color that was sampled. So for me, with my hotkeys, the R key samples the color, the G key samples selects out of the palette. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Now, in my case, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to try what I described earlier, which is I'm going to create a plastic tool mesh of reasonably high density. Again, see how close it's cropped to the edge of the drawing? So what that means is I not only get the benefit of the plastic tool, but I also can now hit the B key. Oh, sorry. B. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and deal with Golek shadows like so. Like that. Close that shape. Fill it. Okay, apparently I didn't create a closed shape. That's kind of weird. According to... Oh, it's because I'm in... I need to do this. I need to draw a lasso around it. Okay. Now, if we go like this... Okay. Then the final step would be to, once again, open our schematic. And what we're going to do is we're going to take Golek Shadow, which is column 5. And we're going to put that through the plastic tool as well. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to lock. Okay, except if it doesn't. Wait, I'm sorry. It's not column 5. Oh, I'm so silly. Is it column 5? Yes, it is. I'm going to call this GSHD for G shadow. And so that is going through the mesh, which is this one. And so we'll call this G mesh for Golek mesh. Just makes it easier to zoom in here in the schematic and see what I got. Okay. So my question now becomes, why? I was thinking that it would be cropped, but it isn't. So that's no big deal. I just need to do the same thing for Golek that I did for the king. Okay. Fine, fine, fine. So, here's his shadow. Here's Golek. So we'll call this just a big fat G for Golek. Boom. So there's Golek. And we're going to go Insert Effects, Layer Blending, INO, Multiply INO, Background is there, and do I have these backwards? I think I have these backwards. Yep, had them backwards. Sorry. Okay, and now that's clipped as desired. Quite nicely indeed. And at any time we can kind of dial those shadows in a bit. Well, the nice thing about doing shadows this way is you can even tint them if you want. You know, you can do whatever you want with them. So anyway, So now the question becomes, what about the plastic tool? Well, X key. So for Golic, this is going to be interesting. So let's go to build skeleton mode, and what I'm going to do is just give myself a couple extras here, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a guard around his body for all the good it's going to do me, but I'm going to try. Okay. We'll see. We'll see if it works. Alright, and now what I want to do here is just give the guy some angry eyes. So I'm going to go like this. I tell you. You know what I want to do? I want to actually do it like this. I want to go out and back in. Like that. Out and back. Again, I'm going to try this. Not sure it's going to work great, but what the heck. You know, if I was using Blender, this would be, I'd be using, I'd just be using shape keys, and it'd be absolutely not only easy, but it'd be very controllable. There'd be like no chance of it going haywire. But we're going to try. Okay? So now we're going to go into animate mode and see if the whole world is going to be stacked for us or against us. We don't know, but we're about to find out. So actually, let's do this. This is a bit of a kludge. Here at the root of my skeleton, I'm going to put another bone right there. And the reason I'm doing that is just to insert a dummy key right there. Alright, and now this dummy key, which I don't even know if this is strictly necessary, since I assume if there's no animation data that probably I don't need to... okay, what am I trying to say here? If I go ahead and change his expression down here somewhere, it's going to slowly morph from the basic expression down to that expression, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm putting a dummy key in here that sets the initial position. I think there's actually something, there's some mechanism for setting the initial keyframe for everything. I think doing global key maybe sets keys on all of the bones. I don't know. I've just never, even though I've gone fairly deep with the the plastic tool, I've never found out. Okay. Okay. Let's do... Actually, let's take this even a step further then. As long as we're here, let's do this. Let's go here, and let's go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's see what that did. Okay, so now we have to go back here. And probably the safest thing would be to hit Control C and actually repaste this one back up here. I can hear Kitty crying out back. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the plastic tool layer off so I can just see what happens. I didn't mean to lock it, I meant to turn it off. Okay, so there you go. Probably wouldn't kill us to turn on the background. Probably wouldn't kill us to lock it to the camera. And I think, let's see, how long is it? This is just about an hour. So this shot, to my shock, seems to be taking about an hour, like every freaking shot I do. They all seem to take an hour. So let that be a lesson to you. And this is 4 seconds, so it's not the greatest in terms of the length, but here we go. Here we go. Hit the N key so we can see him at actual size. And this is what happens. Asher says his little line, and then he smiles. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. So what's missing? basically what's missing is Golic needs to shift his body weight because there's just not enough motion for us to see that anything actually happened. So now this is a little bit tricky because the way I did this, oh man, I did the skeleton completely wrong for what I'm having to do now. I did the skeleton completely wrong. Oh dear. Alright. Well, let's just, I tell you what, I'll go here and just kind of see how this is going to behave. Okay, yeah, you can see his head's totally disconnected. Yeah, I really screwed this up in a big way. But you know what? Let's try something here. I've actually never tried this before, so I'm gonna try something just for fun. Let's see what happens if we. Well, we don't have any animation keys on these nodes, so why don't we just. Let's take a chance here. Let's just start deleting things pell-mell and willy-nilly. And I'll show you why here in half a second. We'll just get rid of these, except we're going to move these down here, and we're going to do the quintessential okay, and then kind of this one for his belly. But see, the problem is this is not going to move his head. Yeah, it's a big problem. It is not going to move his head. Right? So what that means is when I try to move his body's going to move, but his head's not going to go with it. So that was, man. I really blew this, you guys. I really blew this. I blew it in a big way because it never occurred to me that I was going to have to move his body. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to add a new skeleton. Okay? And let's just do this. Let me see. Ah, it animates. Ooh. This is kind of an interesting state of affairs. Let's give this a shot now. So will it actually switch? Kind of, sort of, but not really. Okay, this is definitely a controversial move. Controversial, I tell ya. Yeah, it's going to jump. So, well, this is where I really wish OpenTunes had a more of a traditional morphing capability. It really doesn't. You can kind of fudge it with some things I won't get into. But I guess here's what we're going to do. We're just going to switch. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is dupe this key. And then have him, we'll keep distance here. Okay. And now we'll mod the skeleton to try to get his eyes going like I had him before. Okay, so it's boom, 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 boom. And a little bit of protection on the bottom end, like so. Boom, 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 boom. Again, we're trying to protect the area on the bottom. We want to protect his nose. In other words, we don't want his nose to deform. Hope that makes sense, folks. Okay, now we should be able to turn off keep distance. And, ooh, I like that. Ornery eyes. Ornery eyes. Okay, that was really, I kind of got lucky here, folks. Okay, the caveat being I need to go here and soften up the angry eyes. Like so. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to do, come to think of it, is boom, 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 boom. Okay? So it's kind of nice that you can... Oh boy, that's a mess. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. It's the one thing I just don't like about the OpenTunes software. Ugh, jeez, come on. Ugh. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually do the same thing I did before. I'm going to create an even denser mesh and see if that helps. I'm kind of thinking it's not going to help, but we'll try. Yeah, look at that. Golly, that's so ugly. So disgustingly. Ugh. I can't think of enough bad things to say about how that works. But, to be fair, it's not technically a morphing tool. It's not really what it's for. So I'm definitely off-label here just a bit. But yeah, that sort of, consequence where moving one bone actually causes... I can see kind of sort of, let's say mathematically, why it does it. But it's still a pretty crummy design. However, we may be okay in this case. If we take this key, Control C, copy it back up here, and that didn't work. Oh, foo. Okay, so actually we want the opposite. I'm going to turn this back on. And I'm going to hit undo. Okay. Darn it. Yeah, the whole mouth thing isn't quite happening. And now we have all kinds of crap. Okay, guys, we're done. I quit. Stop. We're done. I'm not going to do it. I am not going to do it. It would literally be 1 trillion times faster to just render this out, bring it into Blender, and do it. Or, obviously, just draw a new expression in Golem. So now we're into frame-by-frame animation, which isn't a bad thing. No big deal. We can do it. But again, we're kind of in the same situation where doing it in Krita would actually be 100 times easier. Because in Krita, we could use the liquify tool to change his expression. So this is definitely a little irritating because we've just blown our hour. The shot that would have been done in an hour now is not going to be done in an hour. So that makes Dave a little unhappy. It makes Dave very unhappy. Dave is not happy. Alright. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to be pragmatic. I'm going to fix this by actually just having him bristle. Okay? So I'm going to delete the old level entirely. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just have him bristle. What do I mean by that? Well, you'll see here in half a second. Okay, there's that. And we're in animate mode. Boom. Okay, we really probably do want to keep the distance. Control C, Control V, and then that's it. I'm going to have him bristle. Okay, so then here we need to make sure that the Golic shadow is going through his plastic tool. And we're done. Okay. There's a time to belabor things, but I do not think that... the truth is that it's going to be the sound effect that makes it work anyway. So, Vespigi smiles a bit, and Golek... and we'll hear Golek go... like that. That'll work. Okay, so what shot is this? This is 158. Let's save our work. And I reserve the right downstream to go ahead and go in and edit this shot and maybe make some changes. Another thing I could do, just so you know, another thing that I could do is render this out without the background and then actually bring the image sequence into Krita or Blender, frankly, and just do either a shape key modification of Golek and then just comp it over the background in Blender. Frankly, that would probably be the smart thing to do. One thing I'm going to do here, though, is I'm actually going to reverse these. So I'm going to put this down here and this up here. Okay. So there's his final position. There's his starting position, because I don't want the two of them moving in the same direction, actually. So, did that work? Little smile. Yeah, that works. That's cool. That kind of captures the attitude of it. So, we're going to go save, and we're going to go Control R. And again, this is 158. So I need to go look in my folders. I don't think I have a folder number 158. So I'm going to create a new folder over here, call it 158. And then this can be rendered into scenes. Looking for 158. I know it's here somewhere. Actually, I need to go into 158. What I do is I create a subfolder called render for the shot, because then in the main folder, I could put like a blend file or a Krita file, whatever I need. Okay, so this is going to be 158.ping. All right, and we'll let that render. It's going to save out my ping image sequence, and then up here in OBS we're going to jump over here. Now I have bad news, I can't move this out of the way. However, I think I can just bring Vegas to the front. So now what we're going to do is go here, and if you're into like open source and or free software, this is where you're kind of out of luck, because I've been using Vegas for, geez, pushing 20 years, and it's not really free. But I think the entry level version is like $50 now, though. It's not like it's super expensive. All right, but in this day and age, that is a fair amount of money for some people. So, okay, so now what I've gotten done today are these shots, which means I'm over 15 seconds, which is good. So that's it. I am going to, so Golek says his nasty line, and then he says his line, and then he smiles and he bristles. Hey, it works. It works. And with that, my friends, there will be more later.